Welcome to Disruptive Successor, a show for next generation leaders in family businesses and entrepreneurs who want to disrupt the status quo and take their existing business to a whole new level. We all know that what got us here isn't going to get us there. This show will provide inspiration, advice, and resources to help you create massive impact. This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group, where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session. Hi, it's Jonathan Goldhill, and welcome back to another episode of the Disruptive Successor Show. Today's podcast concerns philanthropy and legacy, twin topics for long-lasting multi-generational family business. This show is about amplifying impact through strategic philanthropy, harnessing creativity and innovation in giving, and inspiring next generations to join family traditions of giving. As a young adult, I grew up observing my grandfather, a successful executive in the family's clothing business, build a second career around his philanthropic activities, contributing to medical research, hospitals, his neighborhood temple, and supporting artists with grants to pay for their education. This inspired me about 5 years ago to make a point of reaching out to each one of my clients that I coach during the year. And I reached out to them between Thanksgiving and Christmas, reminding them of my pledge to give back, where I donate 5% of their coaching fees to a charity of their choosing, gifted in their name, ideally in their community. I did this for several reasons. I did this for several reasons, partly because I can, and because I believe it's important to give back if you can. And in part because I want to impress upon my clients that if they're able to be leaders in their industry or their community, that they should and they can. Giving back makes sense for several reasons, including community engagement and reputation building, customer loyalty and trust, employee engagement and satisfaction, networking and fostering partnerships, demonstrating corporate social responsibility, and of course, there are tax benefits to doing so. My guests joining me today are Shelley Hoss from the philanthropy world and Drew Hoeven from the business world. After earning a joint MBA and MPA, a master's in business and public administration from the University of California at Irvine, Shelley has been a leader in philanthropic organizations in Orange County, California for 38 years, starting with work on behalf of children in the foster care system at Orangewood Children's Foundation, and the last 24 years as CEO of the Orange County Community Foundation. Drew Hoeven is the chairman and chief investment officer of Westport Properties and U.S. Storage Centers, family-owned and operated real estate firms in the self-storage, multifamily, and industrial property management businesses. Drew's experience includes acquisitions, development, construction, finance, and operations, and is a board member of Curate, a nonprofit founded by his father. Folks, Shelley first and Drew next. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jonathan. So happy to be here.
All right. And Drew, good to have you on the show as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for having me. And Shelley, thanks for suggesting that I join. Appreciate it.
So, I want to start with you, Shelley, and talk about some of the benefits of philanthropy, both personally and professionally. But I like to start always with, how did you get to where you are? Why is this so important to you that you've been doing it for so many years with such commitment to it? And Like, how did you get here?
Wow. Well, I honestly feel like the luckiest, most blessed professional in the world to get to do work that is so rewarding and has been throughout my career. I started as a volunteer in college working with kids in the foster care system, and through my graduate work was connected to this amazing organization in Orange County, the Orangewood Children's Foundation. And that began a lifetime professional love affair with integrating what's important to me in life, to make a difference, to pave a way for solutions. I love the Orange County community. I've spent most of my life here. And for the last, as you said, 24 years, I just entered my 25th year last week at OCCF's helm, to be at this intersection of people who have both the heartfelt intention and the means to do good in the world, paired with a stellar nonprofit community, and frankly, a sort of microcosm of our country, maybe the world, with extremes of both poverty and wealth. We have sort of a laboratory here to be able to innovate solutions and for people to see firsthand the effect of their investments, which I think is their philanthropic investments, which I think is increasingly important to next generations coming up in both business and philanthropy. So that's a little bit about my story.
Yeah, well, great. And so I'm very familiar with what you do, but others might not. I've been involved in the California Community Foundation and also the Jewish Community Foundation. But what is a community foundation, and why does that really matter?
Oh, what a great question. I wish somebody asked me that question every day.
Right?
And community foundations are sort of a local hub or center for giving in a region. You mentioned the California Community Foundation, which was the first one in the state, which is why it is so named. But there are now 30 of us that cover the state. And we join almost 800 colleagues from California to New York and every place in between, the South, the North, the Midwest, as a sort of a center of gravity. One of our donors said, "You're the center of gravity for local philanthropy," which I kind of loved. We are community foundations operate as both sort of a philanthropic home for people to do their philanthropy through. And Drew can talk a little bit about his experience if he would like. So through funds at community foundations, people can have that either in place of or in addition to their own private family foundation. So we become both a platform as well as a very active advisor, guide, concierge to help folks make the very most impact with their philanthropy, both for tax and financial planning purposes, as well as the social impact that they want to make. And then on sort of in companion with that, we are an advocate, a resource, and a funder for local nonprofits in Orange County, as well as nonprofits anywhere in the world that our donors want to support. So we're sort of that hub, that nexus point for local philanthropists to make their good either here or any place their heart takes them.
That's great. And maybe we'll cover where their heart is taking them in Orange County these days. What are the hot issues? But let's get to Drew first. Drew, tell us a little bit about Westport Properties, U.S. Storage Centers, and your involvement in the business, a little bit about the business, and then also your involvement in philanthropy.
Yeah, sure. No, thanks, Jonathan. I have somewhat of a unique path to Westport. Upon graduating college in 2005, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And upon learning that information, he was told he had 6 months to live. So therefore, no one else in the family was involved in the business or knew what was really going on. So I was quickly ushered into the business. And fortunately, my father fought and battled this horrible disease for another 12 to 13 years, which was somewhat of a blessing in disguise, where I was able to work closely with him for, a decade plus, and really, quote unquote, was a sponge early days within the business, learning all the different aspects and, come full circle year to date. We're as you mentioned, a self-storage operator operating in 19 states with over 260 properties. And through that period of time, since joining in '05, our company has grown from 15 stores under management to 260. And then also brought on two new platforms, being that we develop industrial real estate here in the Western states, as well as acquire and operate apartment buildings focused on workforce housing throughout the country.
Wow, that's a pretty impressive story. I think you told me you have 600 employees in your company. And I want to ask you, Drew, first, at what point did your family, I guess your father in particular, start some of his charitable, nonprofit, philanthropic efforts? Because many people listening might think, well, this is only for rich people. And once I'm rich, when I arrive as a rich person, then I will be philanthropic. And I'm sure Shelley has an answer for this as well. So, but I'll ask you, Drew, first. At what point did your family start being involved in philanthropic endeavors?
Yeah, no, great question. And we did not have the financial resources when we began those endeavors. But
Great.
being that we operate in a lot of small communities, we always gave back from the property level to individual local communities at each property, and really involved our management team at those sites. But fast forward to my father's health challenges, he founded Curate in conjunction with City of Hope back in 2007 with his oncologist, Dr. Robert Figlin. And then come 2010, they formed a 501c3, still being named Curate with a K, for focused on kidney cancer research, and then eventually morphed into funding research for all orphan cancers. But we really integrated that within the company as well as our family, but really within the company with a program we call Roundup for Research, whereas we ask each of our tenants when they sign a lease, hey, would you mind rounding up your rent 50 cents and we'll match it? And with that Roundup for Research program to date, I think last year we brought in over $600,000 from our properties as well as our tenants. And it's been a very powerful tool, and just blessed that we've been able to achieve that success to date and give back in that fashion.
Wow, that's great. Boy, Shelley, what could someone do with $600,000 in your community if you had to advise them?
Well, the list would be almost endless, and it really is, because there are so many more solutions to issues than we even know of now. But I want to really comment on the multiplier effect. And Jonathan, you said something that I think is very true, that people often think, well, I can't write a check with 6 zeros behind it, or end up on a donor wall somewhere. This is a heyday for grassroots sort of multiplier effect giving. And I think generations coming up are getting really familiar with text to give, give in a moment. This idea that Drew's company implemented with rounding it up. We were part of launching what became Rounded Up America in response to 20 years ago, in response to food insecurity, and Yard House Restaurants, which was founded here in Orange County. Their founder and CEO at the time, Harold Herman, said, had this idea: what if we could get everybody to round up their bill, pennies, dimes, less than $1, but you multiply that across restaurant property, how many meals a day, how many days in a week, restaurants across the country, and it became millions of dollars and signed on other restaurant groups, and is now operating at a national level. This idea that we can each make a difference, and we're so connected through technology, through our networks now, and to have astute business leaders like Drew see opportunity that is not in addition to or an aside from their business model, but actually integrated into their business model. You are inviting each one of your customers to play a part in changing the world by round. You're providing this very easy platform, a box they probably just have to check, and you automatically take care of it. you are making philanthropists out of every one of your customers. And to me, that's so inspiring. And if every business thought about their way to play in that space, what a 600,000 would be a rounding error to what that ultimate impact would be.
Yeah, I second that. And, I started this show with an introduction on several reasons why giving makes a lot of sense. And Drew, that one checks several boxes: the community engagement and reputation building box, the customer loyalty and trust box, and the employee engagement and satisfaction box. I'm sure that Matt, you see that through activities like that, right?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable, and it's created such a wonderful culture that just cascades from the top down. Starting with my father throughout the company, and it's pretty infectious.
So, generally, I think what can be said, and I'm sure has been analyzed, is that the Net Promoter Score, if you're familiar with that,
Yeah.
which is basically, everyone knows it as, just call it a satisfaction score, that the satisfaction score of your employees and your customers goes up incrementally or, significantly, such that it makes your company, the culture of your company, very sticky. And people who join companies that have sticky cultures tend to stick around. So I imagine you've seen people stay with your company for a long time as a result.
Absolutely. And it's not just all talk, it's very authentic, and you can really sense that from, our management team, and their knowledge and history of, all the charities we support, and especially Curate, and everyone gets involved in a hands-on way, not just writing a check.
Yeah.
Drew, and I know, Jonathan, I'm stepping into your lane just a tiny bit, but only because I have some insight. Drew, I would love if you shared a little bit beyond this, very innovative approach with rounding up the lease. You've really engaged your leadership team and your employees in an active engagement with giving. And I'd love if you talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, absolutely. And Shelley's spot on. And, Shelley's been such a great mentor for me and our company, and my family as well, where we've set up donor advised funds with Orange County Community Foundation via the business and personally. And, now that our organization has been so successful in raising monies for charities, now we're trying to start a program with the help of Orange County Community Foundation, and really involving our employees in helping us decide which charities of choice would be best to give back to, and really focusing on all the various different communities that we service as well, and making a more hands-on approach and more educational for everyone involved over here. So thanks for asking, Chuck.
Well, I imagine this has done a lot for your brand, and that it just snowballs and continues to support itself through that. And so, Shelley, these business advantages of brand building and community relationships that drive employee retention, customer recruitment, it's all really powerful. But I think a lot of people probably think first in terms of, what are the tax advantaged benefits here? Because that's probably not the tail wagging the dog. That's the head of the dog for a lot of entrepreneurs. How is this going to benefit us? So
I will tell you, there is no one I have ever met on any point of the philosophical, political, ideological spectrum that is looking forward to paying more taxes.
Right.
The most progressive end of the spectrum, they're just as uninterested in relinquishing control of their hard-won success. And pairing with those business benefits you just mentioned, there are an equal number of very meaningful personal benefits from philanthropy. And I think sometimes we feel a little shy to talk about that, because we think, well, giving should be completely selfless and we really, is it indelicate to talk about what we get out of the equation? I am the evangelist for the opposite, because the more empowered and enthused and rewarded people are for giving, they're going to be that much more interested in doing more. So I think it's very important for people to be knowledgeable about the benefits, that pair with the business benefits. And because your audience, Jonathan, is typically family business, I want to just note three observations that I've had, and one that is more technical that I'll just share a few high points on. You mentioned tax benefits. So there are untapped strategies for utilizing philanthropy in a really smart and savvy way, just as people are smart about how they plan for their business growth and maybe even ultimately an exit. There are just as savvy strategies around giving. So I'll give a couple of tips there. Secondly, I think Drew would say an amen to this. There is just no way to quantify the feeling of reward, the sense of that satisfaction, the fullness that you get from knowing you've really moved the needle on an issue, or you've made a difference in an individual or a family's life. There's nothing like it. Would you agree with that, Drew?
Amen. Absolutely.
Yeah. It feels great.
Right.
I was just reading an article in the Orange County Business Journal. It was titled "Give Till It Feels Good," as a local pastor, Dr. Robert Huffman, who said that. And I love that. And it doesn't take very much giving to feel good, and just embrace that. That is, it is part of who I believe we are as human beings, that we do have an intrinsic sort of gene for joy in helping community. And thirdly, giving can play a really important role in connecting family, including those who aren't maybe actively involved in the business. So Drew has siblings that he's the main person involved in the business, but philanthropy can be an incredible unifier and holding family together, that is sort of sparked by the family business success, but can bring and draw family members in who aren't part of the business, but to share in the giving experience that has been fueled by the business success.
So Drew, drawing on what Shelley just said, it sounds like you and your family members have decided to set up some DAFs, donor advised funds, in lieu of setting up your own philanthropy that the family would control as a group, maybe, and make joint decisions. Do I have that right? And if so, why did you go in that direction?
Yeah, so my wife and I did set up a donor advised fund to actively engage in with our children. And, with the help of Orange County Community Foundation, Shelley and her team, which have been fabulous, helping educate our children and really give them some decision-making power in what really strikes their heart. And unfortunately, it's a lot of things that hit close to home. Like my daughter has celiac disease, so we give back to the Celiac Foundation, for instance. I have someone extremely close to me with Parkinson's, so we're involved. Give back to Michael J. Fox, and it's been great for my kids also to get involved in ways of my daughter Avery, through a class project, made bracelets, and all the proceeds she gave back to Chalk Hospital. So it's been a great avenue for my children to really see the benefits that come with it. And then on the flip side, my father, created a charitable trust, and when he passed away, myself and his wife are now co-trustees of that. And through being a co-trustee of his charitable trust, I've been able to really expand my giving from his charitable giving into a lot of charities and nonprofits that were near and dear to his heart. And, like all things in life, we really hyper focus on, what really touches our heart, which has been, health, obviously, with my daughter's health, my father's health, and then my children are super, super young right now. So education's another big piece of our giving as well. So it's been great for our family nucleus. Yeah.
And how young was the youngest child when you got involved in, or got them involved in this journey together?
It's a great question. When we created the Donor Advised Fund, I don't know, Shelley, maybe a couple of years ago, but
Yeah.
um, you know, giving's always been a part of our family culture prior to that. And Shelley brought me over to the Orange County Community Foundation, probably Shelley, maybe 20 years ago through
Yeah.
I forget what the program's called now, but it's a young kind of
Yeah.
advisory group where Shelley's team really educates us young folks on just charitable giving in general. And we were able to go meet a bunch of great organizations hands-on and hear their stories. And at the end of each fiscal year, we compiled a small fund of monies that we were able to all vote on and then give back. So I really kind of cascaded that back into my kids as well, just with the simple things of, birthday parties where my oldest daughter Hadley would just ask for money to give right back to cure it. So it's been really neat to see the kids embrace it at such a young age.
And Jonathan, I would say the youngest kids that we have engaged directly through OCCF have been about 5. Once kids are getting ready to, start entering elementary school, they, you can start very simple. We had a little exercise with several of our families who had children, from 5 to 9. And they started with 3 buckets. Do you want to help people? Do you want to help animals? Or do you want to help the earth? Right? Those are some buckets. And then within each of those, you can help people who don't have enough to eat or don't have a safe place to stay, or you can help people who help people. Little people often like to help firefighters and, other first responders. And you can really begin at a very early age with age appropriate activities. And that is something that we continue to do with our donors and families. And we're just reinvigorating a program that one OC, our county's volunteer center, started, that I participated in with my son, who just turned 21, but we started when he was 5. And they organized activities for your family to do age appropriate, packing emergency kits at the rescue mission, packing sack lunches for kids at Someone Cares Soup Kitchen, making tie blankets for kids at Chalk. And I really feel like those are really effective ways. It's really impossible to start too young, I think, with kids.
I love that. I think it's great. Now, I want to ask you who your ideal client profile is, because I'm assuming that we're not starting and marketing to 5-year-olds.
Wow.
But it's a great idea. And I'm assuming that we're not looking at this like, I think it was Steve Jobs or Bill Gates who had the vision of having a computer on every desk in every home. That, if we start them young, teach them, get them on an Apple in school, then they'll want Apple when they get out. What is the, when people are listening to this and thinking like, oh, is this right for me? I mean, the community foundation, I don't have that much money, or I have enough money. I mean, when do I start, who's the ideal client that calls you up and says, I think I might need your help?
That is such a good question. And I'll answer, and I'll also circle back to something you pointed to earlier that I want people to be thinking about. And it relates to, so maybe I'll start there because it sort of relates to ideal client, which is, I think often when we give, we think about giving out of our checkbook, off of your income statement, so to speak. Like, we write a check or we put something on a credit card, we raise a paddle at an event, and we miss the capacity that lives on our balance sheets, right? And those are different sizes in different situations. But one of the ideal sort of prospects for a community foundation is someone who has an appreciated asset. That could be some stocks that have gained in value, could be property, real estate. It could be ownership interest in your business that you're going to be restructuring or exiting, and you're going to have a a big capital event, a big tax event. So what I think sometimes gets missed is giving part of an asset that you own to charity before you sell it has an enormous benefit because you then pay no capital gain on whatever that piece was. So we'll do a simple math example. If you have an asset, let's say it's worth $10 million. I'm just pulling that out of the air. It could
Sure.
be
You bought Nvidia for $1
you
million.
bought, right. So right. And let's say whatever you bought for $1 million and now it's worth $10 million or just piece of property or whatever it is. So that $9 million in gain, if anybody has sold anything, especially in the state of California, you're going to sign away in excess of a third of that. So $3 million federal and state just in capital gain tax. Any part of that is given, it needs to be a more sophisticated nonprofit partner like a community foundation, but could work with a hospital or a university as well. But if you assign an interest in that asset before you sell it, that charitable portion has no capital gain. So you essentially get a third of that, to added back to your charitable budget. And then you get to deduct the full fair market value of that of the gift against your ordinary income tax. So you get a double benefit. And it's that's not an easy thing to explain in a, elevator pitch, but it is such an unused potential that I can't help but shout it from the rooftops whenever I get a moment. So when we think about if people who might be a good fit for the community foundation, I would say a couple of categories. One is philanthropy is really a major focus of your life, your individual life, your family's life, and you want to be really strategic and thoughtful about it. Community foundations, and most community foundations, you do not have to have $1 million. Our fund size starts at $25,000. So if you're someone who might give $25,000 in a year, it's accessible and can then add the strategic thinking and organization and planning to your giving. We're also a really good fit for folks who have these kinds of assets, who have appreciated stock. This is my big, if I could wave my wand, anyone who has appreciated stock and has a heart for philanthropy, please, please, please do not sell that stock, or at least not all of it. Give it. Use that to supplant your giving. If you were going to be making a major gift to your church or a hospital, your alma mater, please give them the appreciated stock outright, because you will be in such a better position financially. That is a strategy that isn't people, because everybody does so much self-management now of their own assets. They manage their own stock accounts. They might not have that guidance. So I would leave that thought. So people who have some, both capacity to give, it doesn't have to be millions. It can be, thousands, and want to be more thoughtful, and folks who might be at a particular liquidity event. So that's another moment in people's lives that they often get referred to a community foundation. Their tax attorney or their lawyer, or their bank, or somebody said, hey, you're going to have a big tax hit with X, whatever the transaction is. Or, hey, you've got this rental property sitting on your balance sheet. You don't really want to be managing it anymore. You have a big heart for philanthropy. Why don't you gift those? And that becomes your charitable giving budget.
Yeah.
So those are some examples, I would say.
Drew, maybe you have some words you want to add from a business perspective. Wondering even if this is a good maneuver for any troubled assets that might be sitting on your balance sheet, that, difficult to rent properties, or, oh gosh, I hate to even suggest it, but properties that might be contaminated or something that you didn't know about. And you want to get it off your balance sheet, and the nonprofit becomes a vehicle for doing that. I know business people, they look for angles. So you have any angles on this that other people know about?
Disclaimer, please do not give contaminated properties to your local community foundation.
Sorry.
Yeah. I hope I don't. No, but Shelley's actually been super helpful in educating me in all the different strategies she just mentioned. And we recently went to lunch, and she did walk me through all those options for the future. And, I go back to my father's charitable trust. He did just that through his estate giving, gave certain LP positions in various properties that the charitable trust now holds. But come to find out, there are tax ramifications holding limited interests within these properties that we therefore will have to exit them to take bigger tax-free benefits, which I'm going through that process right now, and hopefully can see a bigger windfall in my giving through that vehicle. But yeah, I haven't yet taken advantage personally. As you mentioned earlier, Jonathan, I'm kind of in the growth mode within our business. But with that, eventually there will be exits where Shelley will be my first call, along with my wealth management team, to help guide me through that process and give more intelligently, right? Where it's a lot more efficient for myself as well as those we give to, because I'll be, the first to admit I've not been very smart with my giving, where, like our church, for instance, it just pulls off my credit card in monthly, where I need to get better at, various ways of giving more efficiently.
Makes sense. So we've covered a bit of ground on this call here, and I'm just amazed at the number of benefits, psychic, emotional, local impact, the impact that you have on your customers, and the loyalty and the impact that you have on your employees. I think that this topic is of real interest to me because it elevates any company's why. And everyone's talking about, what's your why? Find your individual why, find your company why, sell that why, promote that why. That is a huge piece. And it goes beyond just that CSR, corporate social responsibility piece, which seems very, I don't know, seems very 80s or 90s in terms of a concept. I'm really impressed. I think one other benefit that we've not spoken about, which is what happens with an organization in a time of crisis, that maybe having been involved in the community, in philanthropy, that people will get behind that organization if they have a setback of some kind, something that maybe they couldn't control. And so I think it makes businesses more resilient, and certainly makes them more long-term sustainably as businesses. So,
well, Jonathan, I know a main focus of your work is preparing next-gen business leaders to build on the foundation of success that their forebears build, and then how do you reimagine, re-engineer, take the business forward for even greater growth? I see the exact parallels in philanthropy, and in fact, philanthropy being a very important tool for those next gen. When I started in my career in the 80s, I think the sort of prevailing practice was folks thought about their community engagement as being upstanding leaders, but they really didn't focus on their philanthropy till after their business lives were completed. That it really didn't, they were all about the business, and of course they gave, they were, active in their business and giving, but the real focus, it was sort of an add-on. I think that is very different with this current generation of leaders in Drew's cohort and those coming behind, which is there's an expectation that social impact, that giving back, that making a difference is all integrated. It's not separate from, there's a sense that this is all part of a whole integrated approach to life, business and personal life. And philanthropy can be this amazing bridge to help next gen leaders, bring their business forward, take advantage of, benefit from all the benefits that you outlined, but also to feel a greater sense of integrity with how they want to be leading their companies forward. So I do think it's sort of a multi-tool that has both personal benefit, family benefit, and business benefit, and is especially powerful as a tool for next gen leaders.
And you're sensing, if I'm understanding you correctly, that there's a shift as Gen Z merges into the workforce, that the involvement in the community by the company, by the leaders in that company, means more than the millennials that came before them, or the Gen X before, or the Gen
It's
X.
expected. That's my experience. I'd be curious from Drew's perspective as a employer that is not in the primarily in the philanthropy space. My observation is that it is expected. It's not a bonus in sense. What are you seeing, Drew, in your workforce?
Yeah, I totally agree, Shelley. I think a lot of the younger generation, when they're looking to apply for companies, if you don't have that piece, they're going to move on. It is a big part of company culture, and ours in particular, where it's not, us writing a check like Shelley mentioned, just to sponsor a golf tournament, and you kind of like leave it alone. Kirit and all the other organizations we support are very much visible around here, and it's part of our core values as well. And it's something that we on a weekly basis on operating calls and addressing the whole company. It's a part of our blood. And I'd also say, within our own family unit as well, it's a big part of our makeup. And I think that's true with a lot of younger families, and where these younger generations do have the expectations of having that authentic giving within whatever organization and company they join. So I totally agree.
I think encouraging employees to volunteer their time for community service and organizing group volunteer activities. I have clients who go out and landscape a property in the community that maybe is a public park or a church or a school. And the visibility that comes from that, the satisfaction, the promotional value that's derived from it is, I think, amazing. And I see that it attracts candidates who come and say, I want to work for your company because of who you are and what you do in the community. It does not go unnoticed. So
yeah, I'd add, for a long period of time, we would donate, I guess, or give to employees to share ourselves. SOS, I'm sure Shelley's extremely familiar with the organization, but every other Friday we'd have 2 to 4 employees go donate their time and help organize food and give out food to those in need at the SOS Center in Costa Mesa. So I know a lot of our employees through that process really appreciated us donating their work time to go give back. So it is super impactful.
That's great. Well, I would like to invite listeners to reach out to the two of you, if that would be okay, and to reach out to Drew at Westport Properties if you want to talk to a business leader, owner who is giving back and you want some insight. I'm sure he'll point you in the direction of Shelley at Orange County Community Foundation. So we'll have your email information in the show notes if that's okay. And, folks, if you are not in Orange County, there is probably a community foundation in a city near you, right, Shelley?
I will help you find them. Absolutely. We always connect people to their local community foundation. Happy to do it.
Yeah.
Almost 800 of us. So there will be one near you.
There you go. And so I hope that people have gotten some good value from the show. I want to emphasize there are so many reasons to give, and there are so many benefits to it, not the least of which is the psychic benefit, the emotional benefit, call it what you will, that you get from participating and doing something that can really have an impact in your community. So I want to thank you both for being on the show today.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure. And, there's a lot of things in the world that can feel overwhelming, but there is no antidote like, rolling up your own sleeves, whether that's with financial support or your own engagement. It's a great antidote to the things we might feel worried or concerned about. And I'm so proud to share the screen with Drew, who's an incredible example of not only following a great man who I knew and loved his father, his leadership, his passion, his sheer determination to 20x his life expectancy and used every day of his lifetime to make a difference and to be a model, a role model, and an example. And now Drew as a new generation of leadership, not just next, but a new generation of leadership, and how you are broadening and deepening not just your business impact, but your social impact. We're just so proud and honored to get to know you and to support you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Shelley, and thanks for all your guidance and support. And it's been amazing to see your growth over there at the Community Foundation. It's pretty remarkable and pretty amazing. So I know we're all proud of you as well and everything you've done. And Jonathan, thanks for having me. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you and meet you as well.
And folks, you know the drill. If you got some value from this show, please share it with others. Philanthropy is so important. It's too often not spoken of enough in the small business community. And this show, this particular episode, I think is a force for good. And you need to especially share this episode with your peers. And thanks for listening, and give us a good rating on your podcast listening application of choice, and stay tuned for future episodes of the Disruptive Successor Show.
This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group, where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful, so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session. Thank you for joining us on the Disruptive Successor Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, review, and share with a friend who would benefit from the message. If you're interested in picking up a copy of my book, Disruptive Successor, go to disruptivesuccessor.com.